looking at the bigger picture, looking back, do you guys think that God preordains, plans, foresees these, we could say, catastrophic events happening? If you look at catastrophic, there you go. Thank you. I'm not a wordsmith. I think about Samuel.
Yeah.
Samuel, how long are you going to sit here and mourn, seeing that I've rejected Saul? I think Samuel had this strong, he's sitting there crying. He's hurt because he has this strong, he felt like that was his doing, I think. He's the one that set Saul in, and then it's like God pulls the rug out from underneath him. And then, and David says, all the days of my appointed time were written before every one of them came to pass. So scriptures like that, looking back, taking it a step deeper theologically, if we may, do you think that God foresees, preordains, plans these kinds of events? Do you think this is on purpose?
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, I'm looking at all of y'all. I'm asking because we know that let me second it with this and to help the question. Romans chapter 8, all things work together.
Yeah.
Does that mean all things were preordained? I've heard my dad say many times, if God didn't send it, he'll still use it. And I think that's a powerful statement. But did God send it, or did he not send it? Was it
here's what we did. This is my opinion. It doesn't matter the problem. We said yes to the purpose. And we said yes, my opinion, before we arrived. We didn't get here and say yes to the purpose. We said yes to the purpose in eternity. We had to face the problem in time. That's why problems are always temporal. They operate in parentheses of time. So you can see through them because you're born in eternity. You're not born in time. David, God told Jeremiah, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you, which means there was a relationship.
Right.
And I ordained you to be. You said yes.
That's right.
To the tearing down, the building up, yes. You said that in eternity. Now, God didn't tell him, now, on your way to being this great prophet, you're going to be tagged as the lamenting prophet or the weeping prophet and the prophet with many problems locked up in prison. He didn't tell him all that. He just said, you're going to be a prophet. And Jeremiah, in my opinion, said yes. He said yes to the purpose. And I think this is the most powerful thing. We must understand the yes. That when we said yes, that was huge.
That's right.
And when you know you said yes in eternity, problems in time don't change your mind.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've got a simpler mind than that. And so here's the way I think of it. I think I was born on a pig farm. I got no choice. And so, all right, I think in heaven, God's perfect will is fully expressed. Nobody's sick. Nobody's depressed. Nobody's lonely. Nobody needs a physician. Nobody's rushing to the doctor right now. Nobody's getting their heart broken by somebody that said they loved them. Nobody's being raped. Nobody's being misused. Nobody's being taken advantage of. Heaven is awesome. Earth is not heaven.
Right.
Okay, the purpose of earth is not the same as heaven. Here on the earth, we do have God's will. But intermingled with that, we have Satan's plan. Intermingled with that, we have human volition. That's choice. Intermingled, I learned that word. Okay. Intermingled with that, we have bad ideas. That's why we have a free press and a free society. So we can debate ideas and try to figure out who's got a good idea, who's got a bad idea, who's right, who's wrong. And we debate that in the newspaper and on CNN, and we debate it. And the theory is that here in an earthly environment, the best ideas will come to the surface and be used and we'll all be better off. Okay, so that's why we have freedom of the press. And that's why we have freedom of religion. So people can give their best argument and may the best pitch win. And we also have natural law here. So here, if you drive to church 100 miles an hour with no safety belt and you drive into a tractor-trailer truck coming at you going 60 miles an hour, the impact will be 160 miles an hour and you get to go to heaven. Maybe. All right, depending on who you like. Heaven is very political. Everybody that gets in, it's all contingent on who they know. Okay, so here on earth we have natural law. Here on earth we've got bad ideas. Here on earth we've got human volition. Here on earth we've got Satan's plan. But that's why when the kingdom of heaven comes upon us, we get delivered. When lordship dominates us, we don't have our own volition exercising bad ideas anymore. See, we teach the Bible to eliminate bad ideas and get good ideas. We have miracles. That's overcoming natural law and having a supernatural infusion to correct what natural law is creating, a sickness or disease or whatever. All right, so there is this dynamic inside of all of us humans that gives us a perfect opportunity to choose. All right, and we create most of the suffering that has occurred by all the people on this platform happen because of other people's responses. Human beings cause more suffering amongst human beings than the devil and natural law combined. All right, because we hate one another, because we punish each other, we add load to one another. Now, Gayle and I went through a horrible, horrible thing that was the product of me going through a sad situation years ago. All right? And the Holy Spirit graciously worked it through. It was the church's human response to that created our crisis. It was not God's thing that created our crisis. It was human response that created our crisis. It's human response that created our loss. Now, I don't blame them because they're human like I'm human.
Right.
And so we're all human. But it taught me I don't want to add a load of burden to anybody else. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make their life worse. And somebody will say, yeah, but don't you know what they did? And then I say, hey, my righteousness is just as filthy rags. I thank God for every day of victory and life. And so although they did what they did, and there are going to be consequences for that, just the way the world's set up, I'm not going to impose consequences. I'm not the district attorney, and I don't work for the county jail. And so I'm not going to impose those consequences. I'm going to do all I can to lift their burden. And you know what I typically do? I go to my office and write them a check.
Yeah.
Because that lifts a burden while other people are trying to take their stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And so I think God knew because he knows me. But I don't think God planned it. I think it's just the course of human events, and God has vibrantly intervened with all these courses of human events.
I think God having a place, things set. It's like seeing the sprinkler system and the fire extinguishers on the wall is almost proof that there was a plan for fire to happen in this building. In the same way.
But it doesn't mean it's ever going to happen.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But Kevin Duhart sitting there on that front row, the man of God that he is, that when I started walking through situation, never batted an eye, never flinched,
Right.
never moved another direction, but moved closer to me to be my brother, was proof in the first place that God knew something was aligned because he put him in my life.
That's awesome.
Jacob D is sitting right there, raised and discipled and walking with me the years that he was doing. As things came around, immediately the step that he made that could have been that detracting force, but being what he was the proof automatically that God had a plan in place for the things that would happen.
Yeah.
And those people that he's raised around us, I think, are proof that God was ready for something to happen. Whether or not it came into being was still yet to be seen, but God had planned for the process by what he had placed around us.
And I just want to say something to what Pastor Rick responds to that God doesn't necessarily cause it to happen, but he works with this situation, because after our crisis, just a couple of nights after it broke, the Lord woke me up in the middle of the night, and I'd gone to sleep that night weeping over our situation and over our loss. And what he spoke to me was, trust me, I have tremendous purpose in this for you. Wow. And he told me, he says, I have come in response to Ted's prayers to rescue him from the mouth of the lion, you know, from the fiery pit and from the fowler's snare. And he said, hide yourself in me. Trust me, I have tremendous purpose in this. And so just a week later, when we were separated from our church and our city, and we were actually in Florida, just on a beach it was a desolate place for us. It wasn't a vacation. It was a dark and dreary time in our lives. I had an epiphany, and my epiphany was, what's the big deal here? Is this not the point? Yeah. Of course God has purpose in all of this. Yeah. He has chosen us. We are His. We are sincere in our faith. We are walking with Him. So why are people in such shock that Ted has to deal with his human condition, as we all do, and that the Holy Spirit is working with him as He works with all of us? Yes. Nobody should be shocked. If anybody should be understanding in this situation, it's other